So this is basically why it's time for me to make a new PC. Note to self, everything takes longer than you think. Case in point, this video. I totally procrastinated on this, procrastinated. Hi fam, it's your Tito Frank here, and welcome to this long-awaited episode of Tech Tings, the quest for the ultimate Pangkabuhayan Showcase! The episode where we actually build the ultimate Pangkabuhayan Showcase. It's here! Oh god, it took so long. This episode is supposed to be about building my ultimate livelihood PC, but I think the real theme of this episode is time. Over the course of the pandemic, one of the things that I have learned is that as I get older, the faster time seems to move. There was a time when I would wake up every day really early at 5:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning, and I would get so much done even before the sun comes up. But now it seems like I feel like there aren't enough hours in the day to do all of the things that I need to do, let alone the things that I want to do. Time is your ultimate resource, and in fact, it's your only resource. It's non-replenishable, it is self-depleting. We think in terms of spending our time in exchange for money. It's not a fair exchange because all the money in the world will not buy it back. I set out to build the fastest machine that I could possibly afford. A slow machine takes your life away. You want a fast machine so that you spend less time working and more time just living your life. And a slow machine makes you wait. And in that waiting, your life is on hold. There are these little seconds and minutes of waiting that add up to a lot of wasted time at the end of the day. And having a fast machine, you can get stuff done much faster, and then you will have accrued more time at the end of the day to just live. Spend time with people you love and figure out the meaning of life and stuff like that. In this day and age, the computer is a multi-purpose tool. You are gazing into one right now. I mean, a connected device is the sum of all human knowledge literally in the palm of your hand. So much of our lives revolve around computers. I would consider PC building to be a 21st century life skill. The biggest hurdle to building a PC in 2021 is availability, because right now the industry is going through a global chip shortage and it's really hard to get parts, and the parts that you can get are really exorbitantly priced. So building was an incredible challenge, but we got through it with some patience, perseverance, and a lot of luck, honestly. The machine that I built is a livelihood showcase, a Pangkabuhayan showcase. It's something that I use to make my living with as a video editor and a voice talent. What I need is a machine that can handle 4K editing easily without lagging and without long render times. I need a machine that can handle anything I throw at it, that can chew it up and spit it out faster than I can smoke a cigarette, which I no longer do, thank goodness. It was the best decision ever, and I think one day I'll make a video about that. And powerful enough to play Cyberpunk 2077 because it's like a Christmas present to myself. It's a rule of thumb that if you can build a PC fast enough for gaming, it's a good enough PC for just about everything else. And of course, you need to strike that balance between work and play, right? I decided that this time around I'm going with an all AMD build, as I have never built an all AMD system before, and you're not PC Master Race until you've built an AMD machine. AMD has been killing it lately, and Intel has had to play catch up. AMD is on the 7nm process, while Intel is still stuck at 14 nanometers, and my old machine was 14 nanometers. So at this point, it's a no-brainer. We gotta make a Team Red build. We start off with a Ryzen 3950X processor, 16 cores and 32 threads. It's the processing horsepower I need for the kind of work that I do. I'll be pairing that with the X570 Aorus Master motherboard. It has great VRM and power delivery, as well as thermals, and it matches up very nicely with a powerful processor like the 3950X. Dun, 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 dum, 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 dum. That's right, 128 gigs of crucial Ballistix DDR4 3200 MHz RAM. Why such an insane amount of RAM? For the same reason why my dog licks his non-existent balls. Because I can. But mainly because it was available and the opportunity presented itself, and so I took it. Like I said, there was a lot of luck involved in this build. How much RAM do you really need? Okay, 8 gigabytes, absolute rock bottom minimum. This will make sure that your machine does not crawl. 16 gigs is the sweet spot for gaming and some content creation. But if you want to do more serious pro-level content creation, 4K video editing, compositing, 3D animation, you'd want to go with 32 gigs or more, going as high as whatever your motherboard can handle. Now for storage, we've got the AdLink AdGame X70 Gaming Series M.2 NVMe. It's fast, it's flashy, and it's cool, and best of all, it was available. It's just too bad that the RGB is a moot point because it's going to be covered up and no one's going to see it. How big should your primary drive be? I would recommend at least 500 gigs. That's enough for your OS, your apps, and maybe a few games. 250 is simply not enough. And of course, I got the 2 terabyte option because it was available. Now, as a video editor, ideally I'd want a humongous NAS solution like a Synology disk station, but it's pricey and out of reach right now, and for that I choose Seagate's Iron Wolf drives. These drives are robust, designed for video server use, which is exactly what I need. Furthermore, all Iron Wolf drives use CMR or conventional magnetic recording as opposed to SMR or shingled magnetic recording, which can cause problems. I'm not gonna delve into it, suffice it to say, CMR good, SMR bad. Iron Wolf use CMR, Iron Wolf good. Good doggy. Now for the power supply, we've got the Seasonic Focus Plus 850 Platinum. Do not scrimp on your power supply. Many instances of instability can be traced to crappy PSUs with dirty output. Get a reputable brand, preferably with an 80 plus rating. 650 watts should do nicely for the vast majority of builds, but it doesn't hurt to have a little power overhead. Next up is the CPU cooler, and for this I chose the humongous chungus, the Noctua NH D15. This thing is legendary, and it also kind of reminds me of the supercharger on Mad Max's Interceptor. Another reason why I like air coolers, they look badass. Our GPU is the gorgeous Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 5700XT with 8GB of DDR6, a capable GPU at a reasonable price. Best of all, it was available. Oh, yeah! And finally, we're putting all these components together in a gorgeous gunmetal gray Fractal Define 7 case. This case is a beast. It is built like a tank. It weighs 35 pounds. It is beautifully designed with lots of great features that make it a pleasure to build in. And now that we've got all of our components, we can get to building the dream machine. Pop up the retention lever on the motherboard and line up the corner triangle on the processor with that on the CPU socket on the motherboard. Better yet, involve your child and ask her to do it for you because you're old and you can barely see the teeny weeny triangles. And also pop the RAM sticks in while she's there. RAM slots have to be populated in a certain way to take advantage of dual channel RAM configuration, but since we're using all 4 slots, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that each module is seated and securely clipped in place. Next up is the M2 NVMe drive. Remove the slot cover. This cover also acts as a heatsink, but since the X70 already comes with its own heatsink, we'll just set that slot cover aside. Insert the NVMe into the slot at an angle and secure in place with the provided screw. Boom! Done. Next up is the CPU cooler. Remove the black plastic thingies around the CPU socket. Put the gray plastic AM4 standoffs on the screw holes. Now screw the mounting bars in place, making sure to screw the right holes. Let's take out the middle fan from the heatsink. Note that the fan has arrow markings, which tell us the direction the fans are turning and which way the air flows. Put some of the supplied thermal goop on the heat spreader of the processor. Not much, roughly the size of a pea. Carefully mount the heatsink on the mounting bars and screw it in place. Screw it a little bit at a time, going back and forth between the 2 mounts until the heatsink is firmly in place. And now you can put the fan back in its place, making sure that the retention clip is nice and tight. Mount the extra fan on the heatsink. Again, you should not be able to easily budge the fans once they are securely in place. Plug the fan's power connectors to their respective motherboard headers. With all our components on the motherboard, it's ready to go inside the case. But before we do that, let's stick the power supply in there. While we're at it, let's install the 4TB drive as well. Then we carefully put the motherboard assembly in the case and secure it with the provided screws. Next up, we seat the GPU. Simply slide it into the slot until it clicks in place, and then secure the graphics card to the case with a screw. And now that we have all our components inside the case, the next step is to attach all of the necessary power connections. There are 2 CPU power connectors on this motherboard, and we will be using both of them. The reason for this is because we're using a 3950X, which is a very powerful processor. Using 2 rails will give us a stable source of power. We will also be using the 2 discrete power connectors for the GPU as well, for the same reason. The next part of the build for me takes the longest. It's tidying up all the cables and connections to keep things nice and clean. It takes longer the more OC you are, and so this is going to take a while. Sign of the cross, sign of the cross. And, okay, alright, and...
RGB! Sa pinakalikod. Hello?
It's no signal.
Oh, that's working.
It's turning on. It's displaying its RGB goodness, but nothing is registering on the monitor.
Yung mga numbers.
I don't know. I have no idea what those numbers mean.
Oh.
Oh.
Ito yun.
Oh!
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 Whoa!
Oh shit! It's installing the Windows kaagad. I haven't even made it to the BIOS. Wait, that's a good sign. That's actually a good sign. Yay! But I want to get to the BIOS first. We shall turn this off.
Oh, ba't natin yun?
Because kailangan ko muna i-configure yung BIOS.
Ano yun?
Basic input-output setup.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. From the BIOS, we can see if it's reading all of the RAM that's installed, if it's reading all of the devices that are installed. And, yun. It works! Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
Merong Christmas lights! See the Christmas lights! Ito na lang yung Christmas lights natin. It's alive! Oh ho 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 ho! And there you have it, my ultimate Pangkabuhayan Showcase Dream Machine Build Adventure. And how is the performance, you ask? Well, I don't think I need to do any kind of detailed testing to know that this machine is an absolute beast. In a nutshell, the things that used to take hours now take minutes. And the things that used to take minutes can now take seconds. That is how powerful this build is compared to my older machine. I give all of my machines names, and the name of this build is Padayon. It's a Visayan word which means to persevere, to move forward, to keep moving on. And I think it's in keeping with the spirit of the times, because we're all going through hell right now, and it makes sense to just keep on walking. And so I thank you for sticking around and taking this journey with me. If you've lasted this long, I am jealous of your tenacious attention span. Recently it dawned on me that I could quite possibly be ADHD, and it would explain a lot of things about my behavioral quirks and the way I do things. It's something that I would like to learn more about, and it could be the start of another journey, which hopefully that you'd like to take with me. And so, Ayun, that's the limit of my attention span. Thank you for your time. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. Ingat kayo parate, and love you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Yes! Yes! Now look at that camera and be happy. Yes! Yes!
Tito.